So this is the all new base model iPhone 17, and we're going to do a speed test comparison against the Galaxy S25 to see which one is quicker. So what is up guys, Nick here helping you to master your technology. Let's go ahead and begin with a boot up test in 3, 2, go and see which one can get there first. Now, I'm going to guess it's the iPhone 17, but I could be wrong. The Samsung Galaxy S25 and both iPhone are the latest 2025 base model phones, and they do come in at a similar price point, so you could go either way here and get a pretty nice offering. And I was wrong. The iPhone 17 lost to the Samsung Galaxy S25 to boot up. Some people say, though, when you first turn these on, though, Samsung is kind of slow or whatever. So let me go ahead and do that really quickly here. So I'll put my passcode, hold on, I'll put my passcode here and kind of swiping through. Doesn't look slow to me there when you first turn it on. Some people say it's kind of slow. Let's see here. Looks fine to me here. Just a little bit of loading time here on that left area, but they look pretty ready to go there once you turn them on. But the Samsung did boot up faster. Let's go ahead and do a biometrics test now. All right, so for the iPhone 17, you just kind of look at it and it goes right in. The convenience of Face ID is undeniable. It's a really, really awesome unlocking method. And you can see we have the always on display now for this phone, which makes it even better. And that's pretty quick to unlock. However, you just cannot deny that the speed of unlocking the S25 is faster because you don't even have to look at it. I could do it like this. And the argument is also that, well, if you have greasy fingers, it's just not as convenient. You can also use the camera to unlock, and it's harder than ever to fool these with a picture. They're kind of figuring that out, that people are doing that. And so even though it's not quite as secure as a Face ID, it's still not super easy to fool. But you'll still want to use biometric fingerprint for better security, and the best security is always going to be using your own long password over something like that on unlocking. But in terms of speed of unlocking here, I would say that the Samsung is faster. The iPhone could be quicker though if you are like having greasy fingers or if you missed that sensor, then the iPhone could be quicker. But Samsung gives you more ways to unlock. I would have liked to see a Touch ID sensor on these power buttons already to give us dual options. It would be pretty cool. So we are rocking out with One UI 8 on the right. We also do have ourselves, and that's Android 16. We also do have ourselves iOS 26.0.1. The clock speed of this phone is 4.26 gigahertz, and you could see on the highest clock speed for the Samsung is going to be 4.47 gigahertz. The Samsung does have 12 gigabytes of RAM, and the iPhone has 8 gigabytes of RAM. So the Samsung actually has the same amount of RAM as an iPhone Pro. You can see though that the bezels look maybe slightly thinner on the iPhone 17. However, to me, that fact is negated by the fact that we do have ourselves dynamic island. I feel like with the punch hole, it kind of makes up for that on the Samsung having slightly thicker bezels. As scrolling through the iPhone 17, you can see that we do have ourselves pretty nice scrolling speeds, bouncing through different areas of the quick panels. You'll see in here in Control Center, definitely very, very snappy. But if we go over here to add a control, this area still doesn't look super smooth. It feels like it's chopping along versus scrolling smoothly. Scrolling across iOS, most people are going to notice a difference here on the base model because we went to 120 hertz. But generally, the general operating system runs pretty well, especially since the dot release of 0.1. I do think it's going to get even better, though, as we get on to the more 26.1, 0.3, stuff like that. I do think it's going to get much better. Now, for the Samsung, they really went to town this year with the Samsung Galaxy series, improving animation, speed of operating. The phone just feels like never before with the One UI 8 over here. It just feels great, honestly. You never thought with all the feature sets Samsung throws in that they were going to get it this smooth, but finally, I say finally, the Samsung might in multiple areas actually feel a little bit better in animations now. Let's get on to the app test. All right, guys, so let's go ahead and close everything out and we'll go over to calendar, and you can see I think it was faster for the Samsung to launch. We'll go into clock. The animation quicker on the Samsung. You could argue Apple's looks better with this visual glass down here when going through different submenus and stuff of that sort. Let's swipe up out of there. We'll go into calculator, the Samsung quicker. We'll go into Play Store and see it's a big deal for iPhone users to finally get ProMotion. But for Samsung users, they're like, okay, we've been having that for years. So this is nothing for somebody coming from a Samsung. It doesn't really matter to them. as they've been having the 120 hertz refresh. So it's just not a big deal for Samsung users. We'll go over here to Gemini, and it means that the Samsung was really not behind at all when it comes to comparing to a iPhone 17. We'll go into Grok, and Samsung was loading up a few more items, so I want to rerun that just so we can get a closer look. Looks like Samsung had it first. It is telling me to update today, but let's go ahead and swipe about it there. We'll go into Copilot, faster on the Galaxy or the iPhone on this one. We'll go into YouTube, and this was faster on the iPhone, but this one was loading up content, so we'll just go to a different area to check that out. Movies, faster on the iPhone. We'll hit free. Faster on the Galaxy. So they're going to trade a little bit depending on what you are looking at. You can see faster on the iPhone. And let's go into Amazon here, and you can see that was faster. Was that on the Galaxy? It looked like the Galaxy. Let's go into Groupon, and that looked to me like the iPhone on that one. Swiping through, but you see throughout this test, these are neck and neck. So it's really down to which do you want, iOS or do you want Samsung? Samsung was first on the Samsung News application. Now, will the iPhone win in gaming? I am seeing something different though. You can see the iPhone seems to be towering over the Samsung a bit. The Samsung is a more compact phone. It's also lower on the table here. Oh, I got distracted talking about the build of these. So let me go ahead and close that out and do this again. But the Samsung is lower here on the table because it's less thick. So the Samsung is a thinner phone. Let's go into play. So Samsung thinner and shorter. So it's more compact to hold than the iPhone 17. Although the iPhone 17 is pretty smooth and has better battery life in my experience. So I would probably pick that for those areas. And Apple takes the lead there. And even this casual game Subway Surfers. And so I think the GPU upgrades are good for the base model this year compared to some older iPhones, especially those bigger gaps like iPhone 13, 12. And so you're finally seeing a much faster base model. This is the best base model iPhone in years, several years. And it's actually, to me, I think it does have better optimized and loads some games better than the Samsung. But some games are better optimized for Android, so that could trade as well. And so this really is on an app-to-app basis. You'll see Free Fire seems to be better optimized and loading quicker on the Samsung. So they traded there. This is a really close battle. Let's go into Call of Duty. And we'll see Call of Duty is launching on which one first? Samsung pulling ahead. And here comes... This is good for Samsung users though, because if you've had the S25 for several months and you're looking at the iPhone 17 with a little bit of envy, maybe you're like, maybe I should have got that. When it comes to performance, you're good to go. Like the Samsung is definitely not behind. As a matter of fact, it seems more like the iPhone 17 is just catching up. Let's go over here to InShot, and you'll see that's faster on the right. And I'm gonna get some comments. Oh, this guy's glazing Samsung. This guy's fanboying Samsung. No, you can see right there that app launched first. I'm just calling it the best I can. If I miss a couple of apps, call me out in the comments and say, Nick, bro, that one was first. I can admit to a mistake. I'm human. Let's go over here to Speed Test. And that was first, I believe, on the iPhone. Let me go to LumaFusion here. I didn't put LumaFusion, so let me go grab it. Oh, I didn't even download it for this phone. Whatever. We're just going to skip Luma. It's just an app launch anyway. But yeah, wrapping it up here with the application test. The iPhone 17 was faster in some. The Galaxy was faster in others. I feel like that faster animation makes the Galaxy appear quicker in most regards though. The games, some of them are better optimized for iPhone, some of them for Samsung. But generally, I think the iPhone is going to have a better GPU score than the Samsung. But this is the 8 Elite in here, so this is a powerful CPU. This phone can get warm under heavy use. Neither of these are like the best with cooling like the Samsung S25 Ultra and the Pros. But I'm going to go ahead and run my RAM management now. We'll pop through these apps, see if we get any reloads or anything weird going on. Let's go. Okay, so let's take a look here at the iPhone. And the iPhone looking really good with this ProMotion. I swear, when I'm not looking at the back of this phone, I forgot I'm using a base model because it really feels like last year's Pro, 16 Pro, when it comes to performance here. Maybe even better if we look at the actual benchmarks, but it feels exactly like that, and I like that a lot. because it means that people at the base level are getting pro-like value. Let's go over here to the Samsung Galaxy over here, and we'll take a look at this one. 12 gigs of RAM. Oh, I didn't even open Luma. What am I doing there? Let's go to Speed Test. We'll go to 3D Mark. We'll go to Geekbench. You can see they've also done a pretty good job with the animations when reloading. Let's go over here, and so far nothing that extreme to talk about when it comes to relaunching applications. They feel like they're also kind of slower than I would expect for Samsung, but in a good way. Like, they're making them look visually pleasing. Like, when they come out, these applications, they look really good. So overall, you can see neither's really going to take a victory here. Both of them seem to launch all their applications, had them all open. However, where Samsung really does still take a victory is the ability to have multi-screen applications. And some will say, well, that screen's too small. The fact of the matter is sometimes you need this feature, whether it's too small or not. It can be useful. And this can go up to a screen for DeX as well, which allows for more multitasking power. So Samsung's still in the lead when it comes to multitasking power, but in terms of RAM management, launching apps, iPhone 17, and it was pretty much a wash here. So here are the final Geekbench 6 scores, and you can see in the single core, the iPhone 17 absolutely wins. But if you take a look at that multi-core, it's only by a very slight margin. And so if we take a look at the single core here, you'll see that this actually scores better than an iPhone 16 Pro Max of last year in single core. That is amazing value for performance for money on the 17. If we go over here and you look at the multi-core score, you'll see that this scores nearly as good as a iPad Pro M2, which is an M series chip, but above the 16 Pro Max again, but significantly, not significant amount over the S25. So Samsung did a really good job, and those scores are very minor differences. So let's go ahead and do a Wildlife Extreme test. I'll be back when they are done with the final results. Okay guys, so the final results are in for Wildlife Extreme, and what do you know? The GPU score, well, this would be what we're kind of looking at here, graphics, is higher on the Samsung, 5645, and an average frame rate of 33.80, scoring better than 88% of devices on the market, with the Samsung scoring better than 95% of devices on the market. So when you're really pushing it here with the graphics, the Samsung has taken the W, and this is very important because if you looked at the Geekbench scores on the multi-core, iPhone was only a couple points ahead, and some people already believe that's an Apple benchmark. The fact of the matter is this test, I think, shows us closer to their, hardcore capabilities. So maybe the iPhone actually is not more powerful here, according to that test overall. But I think that we are looking at the A19, not the A19 Pro here. So Samsung's still in the lead there. That's a really good thing for those of you who bought this earlier in the year and you're like thinking maybe the iPhone 17's faster. Not really. It's not showing it too much here in this video. All right, so let's go ahead and run a quick speed test net. We'll see if the network performance is stronger on the same Wi-Fi network, same servers as well, on the 17 or the Galaxy S25. But so far, what I'm seeing is the iPhone 17, a great base model iPhone, definitely much better than before, but I'm not so sure it's a better value still than the Galaxy S25, unless maybe the battery life is much better for you. But the battery life is pretty strong on the S25 for a base model phone as well. It's thinner, it has triple camera versus dual camera, and it has a faster GPU score and snappier animations. But does it do better in the network performance? We'll see right here. You'll see that so far it's not looking to be the case. Even on the same server, I've been saying it since I got the 17s. These network, these Wi-Fi performances, the Bluetooth connections, they've been pretty tough for the iPhone, but the Samsung in the very end of this test pulled ahead of the iPhone 17. Upload speeds looking around the same at around 39, but slightly better on the Samsung. So the network performance, while better than older iPhones in my iPhone speed test next to the Samsung, not really looking to be that much better. Also, do keep in mind though, the iPhone 17 does have a sharper display, but the Samsung can still look a little more vivid as it is a Samsung panel. All right, so let's go ahead and showcase the cameras now. We'll just launch those on both phones in 3, 2, go. And that was faster to launch on the 17. Let me go ahead and close that out. We'll do it again, 3, 2, go. and faster to launch on the 17. Now, shutter speed also a bit better on the iPhone. I also found the iPhone to do a bit better when you're like in movement and you take a picture. I feel like sometimes the Samsung blurs a little bit when doing that. But let's go ahead and check the zooming. 30 times zoom, which is significantly longer at the same price than the iPhone 17, which is at 10x. That's not bad for an iPhone, but one thing I noticed is that while the Samsung does offer that zoom, it's not that good at those ranges. It's pretty good up to basically about 10x, and then it starts falling off a cliff with some noise. So the iPhone gives you what's actually pretty sharp, but still at the end of the day, I'm not justifying it. It still has less zoom, period. But in terms of speed, I feel like the iPhone's camera does have faster shutter speed, maybe slightly, and it also does zoom a little smoother through those different camera lenses. But wrapping it up here, final verdict. I think the Samsung is the faster GPU. I feel like the iPhone has much better than the base before, but these are kind of pretty close to neck and neck, with the iPhone being maybe slightly behind in overall performance. The Samsung has faster animations as well, and it was only a hair behind in the Geekbench test, but the single core performance for day-to-day app launches seems to be slightly ahead on the iPhone. I mean, this one's neck and neck. It really does come down to, do you want iPhone or do you want Samsung? Because while this is ahead in multiple areas, it doesn't feel like it's way ahead compared to this one. So it's down to that same old story. Do you want the iPhone or do you want to go with Samsung? Either way, you're winning with these two. And the S26 is just around the corner, so I feel like that's going to be another good upgrade for the Samsung users. Let me know your thoughts on which one you prefer here. I just wanted to give a quick comparison between both. These are both on my phone, so I don't really go either way. I'm just using both of them. So thumbs up if you enjoyed it. Subscribe if you haven't already, and I will catch you all in the next episode. Nick here. Be sure to be well, and peace.